Don't listen when I scream.
Environmental pollution is a serious issue all over the world. People care more about their financial interests than the condition of the environment.
We care more about the latest luxury items rather than millions of marine lives.
If the government is budgeting, one of the first issues they will cut funding on is environmental conservation.
Environmental pollution is killing animals. All over the world, animals from large to small are dying because of our actions.
Your actions can either help or harm these animals. The decision is entirely up to you. Americans use so much plastic that in LA alone, 10 metric tons are thrown into the ocean every single day.
Now, this garbage, 3 out of the 5 plastic bags thrown into the ocean are eaten by sea turtles. The worst part about plastic is that once it's thrown into the ocean, it sinks to the bottom of the floor and stays there forever, waiting for an animal to come by.
Mediterranean off in Spain. This is the most valuable animal on the planet today because of the desire for sushi. But it's also an animal that has declined in the Western Atlantic 97% in the last since the 1960s. It's an animal that has no terrestrial counterpart. There's nothing like this on land. You know, this is an animal that can crisscross entire oceans, can swim from the equator to the poles practically. It never stops growing its entire life. If we weren't so good at catching them, there'd be 30-year-old bluefin out there that weigh over a ton. But we are good at catching them, and the stocks are collapsing before our eyes. But we can't seem to protect them because of this lust for sushi.
All right. Hi, Andrew. I'm Alex.
Hello, Alex.
It's
a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
I'm glad to see young people interested in the environment.
Yes.
Because we need more involvement in the environment and protecting it. So what you're doing is a good thing to inform yourself. Because my generation has not really risen to the occasion of protecting the environment as we should.
If people continue to taking these backward steps and they don't realize that they're hurting their own world and they continue to be selfish as they are, how bad do you think this pollution situation can get?
Well, I think that that people may not want to spend a lot of money on protecting the environment. Many people are willing to just bury their head in the sand and try to avoid thinking about that problem or putting resources into solving the problem. And that's the problem with a lot of our environmental problems. I mean, if you think about the loss of species, it's a very complicated issue. And if you live in a city, you don't see the loss of species out in the natural areas. You just don't see it. And so it's not something that most people think, well, I need to pay taxes so that we can address that problem. I'm hoping that we don't have to face too many crises where these problems are in our face before we start to address them. You may read in the newspapers that there was a recent summit of nations in Chile to discuss doing something about climate change, about global warming, reducing greenhouse gases that are trapping heat in the atmosphere and creating warmer conditions that are really going to be a serious problem. And there not much in the way of specific, tangible proposals to actually change our behavior came at that. Because it's just not immediate enough yet. So that's where I think our best hope is educating the young generations to understand that while you may not be able to feel it now, you can't taste it now, it's coming. And you need to do something about it for your future.
Thousands of miles of coastline, very difficult to protect, and also incredibly rich from an ecological standpoint. You know, our shrimp, our oysters, our bird life, they use those areas to produce, and that's one of the reasons the marine environment is so rich and so abundant. So the consequences are really untold, and the challenges of trying to protect those rich coastlines are really, really very, very difficult.
And that's in the short term. In the long term?
Well, in the long term, I think there are several issues, and one of them is what's happening offshore. Now, remember, the oil is being generated 40 miles out. You know, we've been reading about these very large underwater plumes. We know that huge volumes of dispersants have been used for a purpose, which was to protect that very rich coastal environment. But in the meantime, what is the impact of both the toxicity of the oil and the toxicity of the dispersants on the rich marine life of the Gulf that creates this incredible fishery, as well as marine mammals, dolphins, sea turtles, many of which are endangered, which are all in that environment. One of the things that I think has surprised all of us is how little research has been done in the past on these spills and how little information we have. One of the reasons the dispersant issue has been so controversial is we don't really have any scientific data that's adequate to determine what happens at these volumes or at these depths. So, you know, there is a lot of research that needs to go on after this to prepare us if, God forbid, anything like this happened in the future. But in the meantime, we're really pretty much operating in the unknown, and one strategy to protect one thing is a trade-off on another aspect of the natural environment. So this is truly complex, truly complicated, and really devastating.
This concludes our marine life pollution video.
For more information, visit your local animal shelter and donate to help the cause.